Good evening, everybody, or actually, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying good evening from my old radio show at night. It was on at 8 p.m. So good morning. Good morning from New Hampshire. We got pounded with some wonderful heavy snow over the course of the evening last night, probably about 12 inches. Or more maybe. But thankfully, my oldest son and his family are living here with us temporarily. And so he leaves very early in the morning to get to Boston at a reasonable time. So he snowplowed us all out. So that was wonderful. If you can hear me, please just let me know that you can hear me. I hope you can. And if you could just take a moment on your phone and please like and share with this, if you wouldn't mind, and that'd be awesome. And I just did that myself. That helps anybody who needs to see the show or would benefit from the show. I let divine guidance of the ether of the universe to decide that. But if you could just help the universe along a little bit by sharing and liking, that'd be awesome. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Polly Joe. Good morning, Margaret. Nice to see you here today. And everybody else that's joining, sometimes we can only see when you comment in the comment line here through the Be Live studio. So welcome to everyone that I can't actually see on my screen. So today is about surrender. And could someone just type in to make sure that they can hear me, if you just a thumbs up or anything, so that I can just see that. Are we not part of the universe? Yes, we are. Yes, Rob, we are. I haven't had my coffee yet, Rob. So I'm assuming you can hear me because you can joke with me. So thank you, Rob, for that. So anyway, the week was started out with one word and then changed in the middle because obviously I wasn't listening or needed a lesson this week about the gift of surrender. Lots of times, with that little guy over on the side, surrender for me. Thank you, Holly. Welcome. For me, the surrender part is, growing up or even in society, surrender means that we've given up, right? That we've just decided, screw it, I'm not doing it. And so also too, like in battle and war, it meant that someone else that was right, that you were battling against, whether it was the North or the South or wherever we were in any kind of the Christians and the non-Christians and whatever. But anyways, usually the white flag meant that you surrendered and that you, the other person was, right or whatever. And also, the fight and flight systems in our body don't allow us to surrender, right? The two choices that it has, the rudimentary part of our brain, is to fight or fly away, or flight and run to be safe. But there's a little more spirituality look at, or how I just would describe it, to make it different than what we're so conditioned in the human conditioning of what surrender means. And so surrender is, oh gosh, I always have a hard time. I write these down, and then is the interaction between acceptance and change. And this is all about transformational change, right? This is what we're trying to achieve through prayer or through that divine guidance, to understand what it is that we're looking for, right? And so, of course, I always have. So that was my first, the little guy with the, we get beat up. We will stay and we will fight in a situation, whether it's to be right, whether it's out of fear, whether it's out of the need to control, to protect ourselves. So we will look like this guy, until we go, oh, God, I surrender. Very reactive way of looking at life. And through this 55 days of transformational prayer, I have learned that through the weeks, the transformation that's coming is to change my consciousness to a more proactive, using divine guidance, using our ability to connect with the divine allows us to stay proactive in anything that we challenge ourselves, that challenge us. And let's face it, life is challenging. That's what we're here to learn. We're learn to recognize who we truly are in the midst of this muck that we find here. So I found that, like surrender, again, as these things build on, in order to have the grace or act of surrender, I do have to put my intention out there. I have to have patience about it. I have to pause myself so that I don't, constant be in war like that guy there beat up, before I decide that, oh, wow, maybe there is a better way. I surrender because, because that's what I thought I had to do. And to have detachment, to detach from my ego who says that I have a better plan, or that if I just do this and I keep, pounding into whatever that resistance is, that I'll sometimes remove it. But the funny thing is, what is resistant to us will continue to persist. So surrender is a way to move energy. It's a way to, in the Akashic records, the fear not, judge not, resist not, are the four absolutes of the records. And so there is a lot of practice of surrender in a different way, right? A spiritual way, to move through life, because life just really just happens, right? And we gain more wisdom through surrender. You have to have courage to surrender, because you have to have the courage, the trust, and the belief, and the humility that there is something greater out there running this world, right? That is really influencing us from the unseen. And the unseen part of the world that we cannot see is where we have to surrender to. And that can be scary. That can be really scary to let go. But, we have a few people that we know that survived that. And I'm sure you all do too. And you know that I love The Wizard of Oz. Anybody that's been to my home or sees the ruby red slippers out in my front door, I always go back to that, because as a kid, it taught me a lot of spiritual things that I can relate to through Dorothy. And, does it surrender really mean, that we have to give into the witch? Not necessarily. But if we're surrendering in a spiritual way and not in this way, go with here. Surrender is what we let go of what was. Now that could mean a lot of stuff. That could mean the loss of our health and who we were when we were younger. It could be a relationship, how I define myself in a relationship, how I define myself through perhaps a loss, so grief. So how I have to let go of what was in order to rebuild and have faith in what will be. Now, it doesn't mean we forget. It's certainly not going to take the pain away, the fear, or lessen, allow us to forget that of which we are moving through, to keep it, broad and but I think what is really nice is I found this one, and I have to find it because it was nice, because it was about a bridge. It was, let me just do my little friend Carolyn Miss here. And I gotta just put this one down. I'm sorry. To declare what you are going through is right or wrong, good or bad, a mistake or whatever it is to feed into the illusion and not get the whole picture. So surrender, with the help of pause and humility, getting rid of our judgments, is an act to sort of, it's like an equalizer. It gives us a moment to regroup, to replan, to become, resilient in what that is. And it's never, walking away from any of the truth. And I always like Carolyn Myss because she always puts me on a path of when I'm spiraling down the rabbit hole. I can always read something of hers and it's like, boom, 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 wake up. You're here for a purpose. Don't go down that rabbit hole. It'll lead you nowhere. So it's just nice. She always, sort of wakes me up. And sometimes surrender means that you're giving up, trying to understand and becoming comfortable with not knowing. That's a big one, right? Because we want to be in the know, right? We have in the know about everything. We have, I don't know how many hundreds of channels of news stations. We have many channels of gossip stuff, like, what the stars are doing. We always want to be in the know, right? Gladys Kravis from Bewitched, she was always in the know. So it's in our human conditioning. We are interested, and we are always wanting to know where we're going to be next. For me, that's always been an issue that I struggled with. I've always read the back of the books before I've sat down and actually settled into the front of the book, because I always want to know where I'm going. And I know that about myself. It got me in a lot of trouble in the beginning years of learning my spirituality, because I wasn't patient. And, it's a whole thing of, Mr. Miyagi, Daniel's son, you can't learn without slowing down and, catching a breath. So I look at surrender as a bridge to creating resiliency to whatever it is that you have in your life, and allows you to, take a breath. And this really reminds me of the grace, of that free fall of grace into surrender. So it's that beautiful free fall of grace into surrender, because you really have to trust. You really have to know that God, the Holy Spirit, has got you. Even in the moment when things are really ugly, right? Or really painful, or really fearful. So sometimes surrender just means giving up the understanding, and divine trust can be revealed. Becoming comfortable with not knowing. Just trust. And this is the game I play with me. And until further notice, until something tells me otherwise, that's where I'm going to go. Every day I'm just going to trust. Sometimes I have to fake it till I can make it the trust, because logic will tell me, really, I'm going to trust in something that's so unseen, and I have this huge thing that's going on in my life. I need to get through, and I don't see a way. And I do have to surrender, because I will be in that loop of thought, and I will be frozen and paralyzed, and I won't be anywhere. So for me, energetically, the trick is, how am I going to use my energy? I have so much energy in a day. I have so much energy around me. I have so much life force energy around me to make change and manifest. So where am I going to put that energy? How am I going to use it usefully for myself? So that free fall, that leap of faith into that moment of surrender, just activates the field of grace around me. You just go right in, right? So if you can kind of look at that. So let me look at some of these things. Yes, Connie, we are. Oh, and this one's so very true. Thank you, Cindy. Yep, it's a nice energy allocation decision. Yep, so let's see, how do I do that? There we go. Oh, look, see, now I'm getting a little more interactive with you people. How's this, right? Thank you for joining me. And Connie says, we're so much alike. Yes, we are, Miss Connie. We are so much alike. And she lives down in the Florida area, so I don't think you got as much snow as we got. So thank you very much for all of you joining me today. So The ego, I want to talk about the ego. I have this little flashcard to see right here, because when I'm brushing my teeth, Spirit is talking to me all the time. Sometimes, like when my show is, I think I have it all planned, and then all of a sudden I will move throughout my day. My word gets changed. All this stuff comes in. I get a lot of chatter. So anyway, the ego naturally resists what it is. And quicker we surrender to this through acceptance, the deeper we move into the realm of our soul. And we actually are into more what we're here to experience, what we're here to express, what we're here to shine in our light, even in the shadow. Even when we're in that darkest place of whether it's your health, whether you're in grief of loss, of great loss, whatever that is, if we can surrender to it, because we just don't know, we can't explain, why things happen. Life is chaotic. Life happens. That's the universal rules here, right? So it takes wisdom, strength, and courage to surrender. And we've already kind of started building rapport 10 weeks, right? We're into this 10 weeks. And little by little, I can see how Spirit is having me work through each week that I have a word. I notice that it pops up everywhere in my life, giving me the opportunity to take a peek at it, to take a look at it, and to see how am I going to handle it? Am I going to handle it with my old beliefs, or am I going to handle it through the Holy Spirit and who knows me intimately, right? And to call upon that. And now, of course, I have to use, the law of action in order to use my life force to create change, right? If I just listen to what Spirit is telling me and I don't act upon it, the changes won't magically just happen. I'm here in the physical world. I'm bound to the physical laws here. And my life force has to create a change through my actions, right? And my commitments to things. So that's kind of how that works, right? So I could put that down. And, that's just my name. Okay, let me get rid of that. Okay, so you all know who I am. So with that, like I mentioned before, that which you resist persists. No matter how we try to push it away, the obvious, like I don't want to know that. I wake up in the morning with chronic pain. I can't do the things I used to do. I can't be the person I have to be. And I wasn't a very good self-care person. I was, a mom, and I worked in the medical field. And that is, like every woman, man, that are caregivers or nurturers or over-nurturers, we sometimes forget to take care of ourselves. I mean, that's a common theme, right? And I think women are starting to recognize that that's important. But anyways, whether you're man, woman, child, whatever you deal with, everybody's waking up with something. Everybody is waking up with some challenge, some obstacle that they're experiencing and trying to make it through. And you don't want to succumb to that. So you don't want to surrender actually to the pain, right? So you push and push and push and push, which sometimes makes it worse, right? Waiting for ankle surgery with Achilles tendon that has to be detached, and a bone has to be taken care of and then reattached. And I keep putting it off because I'm like, wow, you mean I have to be non-weight bearing for 6 to 8 weeks? Well, what's that going to do for me? And so I have to surrender who I am and to whatever this is, because it needs to be done. But like, I'm very resistant about it, very fearful about it. Not only the operation, but then how am I going to take care of my family? How am I going to run my business? How am I going to show up every day? How am I going to take care of my dog? So I have to learn that I will block my own wellness because of my egos and my fears, right? And that I really need to start to surrender. So I'm really working on that, because I just went to the doctor like Monday. So I'm giving myself a break, that I'm still in that stuck mode. And oh yeah, Cindy Lynn, so you deal with chronic pain too. So I'm learning how to just ease in to that and surrender to that pain. I'm gonna stop questioning why I have it, like why me, right? We all do that when we have a loss, when something horrible happens to us, or something that just something every day that we have to face. Why is it me? Good morning, Jocelyn. And so I think that if we can surrender that wanting to know, because the truth is, sometimes we're not ready to accept that perhaps I'm not going to be that girl that did everything 24/7 all the time, that I was there for everybody, and that, oh gosh, I may even have to ask for help. I may even have to have my needs, let my needs be met, and ask for help. Wow, that's a huge one for me, because I was always the helper, right? Since a child, that's my personality. It's my nature. I love to help. I love to do things for people. But it means that maybe I need to be ready to accept. So part of the surrender is going to help me move, as we said, and transform to acceptance. It's that bridge between acceptance and change. So I just have to redesign my life. I have to do a plot twist in my life and redefine it. And so I have to let go of a lot of different things, right? So let me put up this one. And I'm just going to, seriously. I liked that one. And there's another one. Complete surrender to God is the way to peace. And I believe that. Isn't it great that we don't? We cannot hear you. You need to come back into the lobby. Oh, thanks, Nash. Nashi knows Be Live backwards and forwards, because she's the one that figured it all out for us to train us to be on this. So at least you saw at least you saw it. So trust in the Lord and your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding, right? Because we're humans, and we don't get the full picture. So the things that we are attached to are the things that, sometimes rob us when we stay attached to, I want to be, 20, running a marathon, being able to not have an ankle or joints pain or whatever rule my day, because I got a lot I want to do. And so I've had to learn that I have to stop being attached to that. This is my truth. This is what's going on with me, whether it's a relationship, whether I'm dealing with grief, because every one of us are going to hit the gamut circle, right? Today's menu is somebody else's dinner tomorrow, right? And surrender and trust in that higher plan, and that the higher delivery beyond the present of what we resist right now. So to just detach, because every day presents new obstacles. Like I said, today my menu is going to be somebody else's dinner tomorrow. And to actually recognize that in each of us, in our souls. And we're all walking each other home. We all know that. So when we're out and about, try to remember that the more that we give understanding to others, then we give permission to allow people to understand what we're going through. And that can be a very, helpful thing to do. So just to remember, expectations are something that we do to protect ourselves, and sometimes control others through protecting ourselves. And it's so you must challenge your story and your perceptions, and to break through the grip of those attachments. We do that. So sometimes we'll lower our expectations if we're afraid we're going to be abandoned, and we'll put higher expectations so people can't get in, right? And we can't let them love us, or we can't let them help us. So we have to be like really aware of that. And surrender is how I look at it, is when I'm struggling with something with that, I'm going to surrender that to God. I'm going to say, you know what? I do not have a good idea on how to change this in my life, transform this in my life. So I am going to lay it down. I'm going to surrender, because I'll just going to keep, going and going and going. And so when I surrender, I decide with my own will that I'm going to trust in the divine will. And I'm not going to put any expectations on the outcome of what my day is going to look like. God, I wake up, this is on my list. These are the things I have to face. I have to work. I have to do whatever. But then I have all these other things that are going on that are also challenges and obstacles for me. And how am I going to do it? So again, it's that board meeting. Go back to the morning. You get up. This is the deal. This is the truth. Be as honest as you can with yourself and with those that you love, your coworkers. So many times growing up, I learned very early on that we wear masks, and that it was appropriate to wear masks. That because emotion, when I grew up, we did not express ourselves. Certainly emotion was considered weak, right? That we surrendered, right, to what life was throwing at our way. So many times as a child, I was confused because I could see the masks, that people were wearing. But as an empath, could also feel behind the masks. So it was very confusing for me as a child. And, I think I became a very codependent person on that to try to understand and manage that. So just to kind of be aware and to surrender the why me, why this or that, why did it happen to me? Surrender the big picture because it's so overwhelming, right? And we're never going to truly understand. We talked about that last week when I read the poem about the weaver, that only the universe and God has the real true plan of everything. And we're down here in the seen world trying to understand the unseen world, and it's just not possible. And we need to accept that. And when we accept that and surrender to that, sometimes it makes the flow of energy move, because if we're not accepting it, we have a resistance. And in the Akashic, it's going to stay that, because that's our will to continue to question and resist it. So it's going to supersede, and the divine will and the universe is just going to stay there and wait until, okay, obviously she needs that because she's resisting it. So perhaps she's, we're going to just keep it there until she realizes if she surrenders, her lesson will come. And that might be with my chronic pain, to take care of myself, to allow myself permission to not feel great, to stop and ice my ankle. Perhaps I don't meet someone else's needs that day because I need to meet my own. I need to make a choice. And that's okay. But it took me, I'm 56. It took me a long time to understand that. I've been running this tank of gas on this gas tank for many years. And I'm sure, I'm not any different. I'm speaking this because I know that anybody listening to this, is no different than me. So surrender the whole and only ask for what you need in that moment. Because looking at the whole of everything every day is just really overwhelming. So I give that to God. God knows that whole, knows what the bigger picture is. I don't need to hold it. I don't even need to know it. Just give me what I need at that moment. Because if I look at that bigger picture of how I get out of bed in the morning, or how I face the world, or how I face the challenges, or as I go along the day and these obstacles pop up, hello, give me in the moment what we're going to do. And Cindy says, oh, Lord, yes. Exactly. That's exactly. I mean, that's how we become resilient, right? So surrender that you want a choice, your choice to supersede my choice. And that's humility. And we talked about that. So I really feel like it's building me up to understand this whole point of this rapport and relationship with the divine, how I'm going to transform is I got to strengthen my rapport with divine. And it's a process, and it's step by step, experience by experience, lesson by lesson. And surrender not having to be right. Dr. Phil, right? Great guy, right? I like watching him every once in a while when I'm cooking dinner. Dr. Phil says, everyone needs a hero. And do you always have to be right? So think about your relationships and where you could surrender the need to be right in order to find peace. And how and why. And maybe it's perhaps you can let go of being right and maybe ask help you to find the peace that you no longer have to feel that need to always be right. And to surrender I really don't get it, God. I know you do, so I choose to lay it down. And I surrender all. I pray, I surrender some more. And then I cry, which I had a couple crying fits, in a car one day in a parking lot last week. And then I let go. And I move an incredible amount of energy is what I realized. The more I moved the energy by surrendering and not just having that resistance to continue to try to move. Oops, there we go. We come back. We have little electricity issues here because of the heavy power lines today. So the power's going in and out. But I move a lot of energy and clarity. So when we surrender to the truth of who we are, our soul is free to dance. And I know I have one in here. Bring this one up. And I cannot, oops, I know what I gotta do. I gotta put this one down. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. So life is balanced between what we can control and what we can't. We must learn to be comfortable. I need to hide you, Cindy, then so we can see that, sorry. In between the effort and surrender. So it's sometimes just knowing that surrender means, it doesn't mean giving up or trying, it's to understand. So I also had some things that we can surrender. If anybody wants to pop in under these, anything else that they would like to surrender or that you found in your life that once you learn to surrender or that you're having trouble to surrender. So here we go. Worry, right? All of us can surrender our worry. Our comparisons to other people, big one, right? Goodness gracious. Procrastination, surrender procrastination. Because procrastination usually comes from, being afraid that things aren't going to be perfect or that you don't have the ability. So, that takes a lot of self-confidence. So, surrender that lack of self-confidence to divine. Show me how I can perform this without procrastination. Our addictions, right? We have to surrender that we don't always have all the answers to help us through those. And that perhaps sometimes even prayer we need help from others, right? We need help from professionals or just to stay on a program, to overcome our addictions, whatever that might be. Anger. Oh, wow. I had a lot of anger. I carry anger like all the time. Like it's like always here, or maybe it's over here. I don't know. And for me, I have to surrender that because it's usually I'm frustrated or overwhelmed. So if I start to learn to be partnership in that board meeting, I think I can actually let go of the anger. But the anger, also is a great bookmark for me, like to know that I need to stop for a minute because like what's going on? It's a shift, right? And it's becoming reactive as opposed to proactive. And judgment, we talked about judgment. So surrender your judgments. We talked about that last week. And our desire to control others, which is through that expectation. And that's out of fear. A lot of that is out of fear, of unresolved fear that we have in about ourselves. Surrendering, getting into the flow. Such a great reminder. Oh, thanks. Okay, yes. So we'll just put that up there. That's from Neshi. That's a good point, Nesh. And then the other fun one that I have here is we did worry in comparison. Okay. So like I tried to make these a little on my own, and they're a little hard to see. But defensiveness, that's a coping mechanism, right? Denial, another very big coping mechanism. And sometimes denials are protective. These are protective coping mechanisms that we use when we're in pain, when we're in self-judgment, when we're in worry, when we lack the trust that divine is truly there with us, right? When we feel separated, when we're in the dark night of the souls, where we feel separate from the world and the whole and one another, and even separated from the universe and God, right? In that great I am. Unforgiveness. Wow, it's a huge energy stopper, right? Surrender drama. That's a good one. That's a really good one. And surrender low self-esteem, right? That goes in with the procrastination. Why? Because I have it. I guess it's no secret, right? Because this is what I'm working on. So here we go. And then I'm going to put this one down. This one, I got the hang of it now that I'm making these things. I'm making what's visually you can see the better. Probably not on your little telephones, but your cell phones. Negative thinking. Surrender it. In the board meeting, you know what? I'm going to surrender all this negative thinking that comes out throughout the day. Please prompt me and let me know my fear, what it is for the need to be right. I'm going to surrender stress. Help me. I don't want to live in stress all the time. It's not good for me. It's not good for what I have and what I deal with chronic, arthritic and fibromyalgia and, all those wonderful things that a lot of us have. Not to be, always talking about myself. I can only just talk for myself, but I do know that other people out there are dealing with so much more, right? And to let go and surrender to frustration. So if any of you have anything that you think can be helpful to think about other things that we're just sometimes that self-awareness, right? To understand where we are. I think I got to share most of course, this was surrender to silence. This is big for me because a lot of times I'm not contemplative in these moments when I'm really struggling. I'm very reactive. And I'm learning if I can just take a step back and go into that silence. Like I'm even broadcasting with earplugs. I'm very sensitive to everything that goes around me. I'm sure I struggle from ADHD, I lost the hyperactivity, but the ADD. And so I actually use earplugs. I'm trying them today. It's helping me stay a little more focused. In the house, it's busy right now. I'm loving the busyness. I'm loving having my daughter-in-law, my son back home, and my grandchildren because it really makes life interesting. And I've been in such a state of, complacency of, as your kids start growing out, I have now just a college son living home, but, he can take care of himself and he's coming and going. Husband's, and so I had the house kind of to myself. So it's a wonderful shakeup, and it brings joy and chaos, right? And so it's great. Yes, earplugs are wonderful, Will. Yes. So I think it has to do a lot with being clairaudient, and my clairaudience is much more sensitive now. So it's funny how I think it makes my senses, my earthly senses, much more sensitive. They laugh at me because I actually walk around with headphones. I don't have anything usually going. Sometimes I will be listening to the other shows, but I'll put the headphones on as like a muffle. Like it's really, I feel silly, but I do feel that definitely. Yes. Yes. Willow says, glad you're falling into the noisy, messy, loving family. I am. I really embraced it. I knew that it was going to be a challenge for all of us. But the funny thing is we're all on the same page and we're all willing to really surrender the things we're used to. My daughter-in-law having her own home, her own place. Me as a woman surrendering my home and having my own little stuff. My grandchildren surrendering to what, how their schedule has changed, and my son and my husband and Alex, who's in college. So we're all learning to surrender. So we're living it. We're living the dream here. We're living the dream of surrender. And I don't know if I put this one up because I like this one too. And then we're going to get to the prayer, in case you're all wondering. And it is when we surrender in the truth of who we are, our soul is set free to dance upon this earth. Yes, that's the one I was looking for. I don't know if you can see it very well. It is uploaded like on Discovering Infinite Grace. I upload all these pictures so you can capture them, and perhaps put them up. And one other nice thing, I just want to know, like my sister, she's very loving, and she's always thinking about how to pass on her motherliness. She sent me this book yesterday. It's called Calming Happiness, and it's one of the adult coloring books and with all the mandalas in them, or mandalas. And this one was butterflies, and it made me think about how a butterfly has to surrender when he's in the chrysalis, right? In order to get out, right? And I'm sure, like being in that and being all tight and growing, and the caterpillar's waiting to become the butterfly. But surrenders to that process, and will be in new life and change and transformation when that caterpillar goes into that process and surrenders. So it's funny how nature shows us about surrender. How the snowstorm, nature shows us, hey, dude, you got to surrender to this. You're not going to get up and you're not going to have your leisurely cup of coffee or whatever. You're either going to have to be out and shoveling, earlier or whatever. You're going to have to bend your day. So nature is a great way to show us who we are. So we can choose, obviously to be this guy, right? Or we can choose the power of surrender, and we can be this one, right? So with that said, I'm going to do my prayer. What do you think? And I want to make sure I said hello to everybody. Okay, so part of the prayer came from this really lovely poem, or it's called I Surrender. And I don't think I put it on. He did put it on. It was by, I found it on aimhappy.com. So I started my prayer a little bit with it and then added this in. So you can find it on Discovering Infinite Grace page, and it's under I Surrender. But I started this prayer out today in order to help me. And again, and I hope it helps you. That's like the whole thing of walking together here. Holy Spirit, hover over me today as I build a rapport with you through the sacred act of surrender. With the understanding through my own humility that I choose to surrender my will to yours. Please increase my self-awareness. Allow me to be present in the moment to receive your guidance. I am learning to live between effort and surrender. I do my best and I hope for what I want, but I do not resist the direction of the wind. Through surrender, I move from outer turmoil to inner peace. by letting go of my expectations and the outcomes, I'm able to transform a painful experience into something positive. When fear gets the best of me, I surrender to love. When I release my resistance to love's presence, I am able to receive what I need, what's trying to come into my life for my highest good and for the highest good of others. Amen. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it today. I hope you learned how to think of something to surrender, to see if it brings grace and ease and the infinite possibilities of healing into your life. Email me, contact me, and let me just put up, let's see, www.infinitegrace.com is where you can kind of find me. Of course, you can also message me through, did I spell that right? Yes. And let me see, we can hide that one and I can type another one. Is that how it works? It does. Okay. For infinite. Comcast.net. And that is an email that you can also write any of your questions, any prayers that you want to put in, any private intentions, just put that in the feed. Just put the word private intention. I'll be meditating on this and everything. And so I'll end this by saying this. I used to think prayer changed situations. And what I've come to know is prayer changes me and I change the situations. And that's become kind of my mantra or my motto that I'm learning through these 55 weeks. And I appreciate you joining with me and supporting me. And blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful day. Much love. Thank you. Good night or goodbye. Good day. I'll get it right one of these times, guys. Okay.